theatrical curtain closes on another year.
We're going to reflect on our top 5 shows of 2018.
And our 5 biggest disappointments.
So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and come and have a chat with us.
Well, 2018 has brought us many things.
Yes, I mean, Harry and Meghan's royal wedding.
A Brexit.
Yeah, the World Cup.
The World Cup was this year, and more Brexit, I guess.
Also, we've just had a brand new bloody Mary Poppins film.
Brand new Mary Poppins after so many years.
Yeah.
And I guess even more
Brexit.
More negotiations.
Yeah, it's pretty much been that, really.
But it's also brought us some fantastic theatre.
It has indeed.
What a year it's been.
I mean, we've seen almost 100 shows this year, and for every theatrical triumph, there's been more than one turkey. But we're going to talk you through what we thought of some of those shows in the past 12 months.
In no particular order.
No particular order.
But we'll start with our top, right?
Yeah, we'll start with our top 5. Now remember, this is just our opinion.
Just our opinion, just what he thinks.
So whatever you think, let us know down below. We'd love to hear from you.
Up first was a bit of a big surprise for us.
Yeah, I'd say almost the biggest surprise of the year, in so much as that it broke the theatrical mould. Part pop concert, part musical theatre, part history lesson.
And yet totally here and now and current.
And a full showcase of talent, and that is
Six. Six took us by surprise. I loved Six. I went in with no expectations whatsoever, apart from a bit of hype. There was a bit of hype out there going on.
And that's
Six
always
this,
a worry, isn't it?
Always a concern for me. So I was already on the back foot thinking, is it as good as they say? And boy, was I like blown away.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only show we've ever given 6 stars to, and every single one of them was thoroughly deserved. It's just a feel-good, fantastic kind of mix of great music, great lighting, great choreography, fabulous costumes, and I could have gone straight back in immediately after coming out, and I could probably see it once a week for the rest of my life and never get bored of it.
I think the big thing is the lyrics are so clever, and the characters and the concept of these characters that we know about but have always been in the shadow of King Henry VIII, is it? But to suddenly give them a voice and say, hey, actually, these are the power women and they have lives as well. Genius concept.
One more quick thing I'd like to add. I think the biggest draw is the fact that we've not met a single person, young or old, that doesn't love it. It's totally cross-generational. You know, right from the little leggers who cannot stop listening to it, to some of our older friends, maybe 60 plus, who go in and just have a bloody whale of a time. It's got something for everybody, and I'm so glad it's coming back to the Arts Theatre.
Yes.
And nipping over to Chicago.
Going to Chicago, let's hope that it has a life beyond the Arts Theatre in Chicago, because it deserves it.
Those composers have got bright futures ahead. Well done, Toby Marlowe and Lucy. Can't wait to see what you do next. Up next is a play that we caught at the Young Vic before it transferred into the West End, and that is The Inheritance,
which comes in 2 parts, part 1 and 2. It's an epic.
It is an absolute 7-hour epic, which zips by in the flash of an eye, down to the fantastic writing by Matthew Lopez. This is a modern gay masterpiece.
A modern gay masterpiece.
Yeah.
A modern day gay masterpiece.
It is, and it's riding on the back of like the Angels in America, but it's now, and it's about gay men living in the 21st century, sort of with now the AIDS crisis has gone, but with the legacy that's left us and where we find our place in the world. Now, I mean, as 2 gay men, I think we empathise with a lot of what was being told in that story, but it's a story about humanity at its heart.
It's not just for gay people, LGBT people.
It's not just for gays anymore.
It definitely resonates. Who was it I saw in the audience? The big actor who played
Daniel
Voldemort?
Evans?
No.
Oh, Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes was in the performance we saw, and got chatting to him, and I said, you know, how are you finding this as a straight man? Are you know, does it appeal to you? And he was like, no, I get it. It's totally. It's for everybody, and I think that's the clever thing. It's also based on the novel Howard's End. It's a really clever concept of having the author of that book, who was a closeted gay man, who wrote this gay book as well, but he never published it until I think it was towards the end of his life or after his life. I can't remember. And then suddenly this story came out, and there's just a really clever concept of bringing him back as a character. Some lovely ideas and lovely drama.
And I think Matthew Lopez's writing had a perfect balance of comedy and tragedy, and that's a real skill and something that really helped drive the plot. I'll go so far as to say now there were some standout performances for me in that production, and Kyle Soller, Olivier nomination. I'm calling it now. Whoa. Potential win.
Okay. Also, director was
Stephen Daldry.
Stephen Daldry, who's done a couple of big things this year.
Yeah.
But I think he could get a nod up there. I think a nomination for sure. Yeah. In terms of best director.
We'll see what happens. Was that the door chiming? Because in comes company. In our list is the Stephen Sondheim classic, but totally reworked by Marianne Elliott, Company.
Yeah, we say classic because it's never really stood out to me as a great piece before. However, what Marianne Elliott has done to this is phenomenal.
Yeah, and
it's revolutionary.
It's the production which has made the score make sense to me now.
Because
it never
of
did
the
before.
Gender swap.
Yes, traditionally the role of Bobby is always played by a man, but now Rosalie Craig, a very womanly woman, has stepped into that role and has explored, along with the director, depths that I never knew existed in this comedy show.
She's just so creative. There's some ingenious direction. Bunny Christie doing the set, now an OBE.
Yeah, I
just
mean,
in the New Year's Honours list, wasn't it?
Congrats, Bunny. I mean,
Bunny.
Well done.
Well deserved. I'm sure we've said this before in our videos as well. Anyway, but set design was fantastic as well. Just everything about this production. We're sure there's going to be a number of nods in this production.
I think it's going to pick up several Olivier Awards. And talking about nominations, can we just say that welcome back, Patti LuPone. You'll be in there, won't you, at the Oliviers, I should think. My love of my life, and what a dream to see her firsthand. If you're going to go to the show, if you're on the fence about it, Patti LuPone is in it. If for no other reason than that, just go.
There's lots of reasons. Patti is definitely one.
But
to
that's
see
enough,
the gender
right?
swap,
I mean, that's enough.
It just
let's
makes
face
sense.
It, it's enough.
The piece makes sense.
But Patti.
It's really good.
But Patti.
And you should go see it. Stephen Daldry features now again on our list, this time as co-director in a play that started off at the Young Vic, then transferred to the Playhouse Theatre, and that is The Jungle.
Now, for me, this was a story that I already knew. It's about the Calais refugee camps known as the Jungle, and we see it on the news and have seen it on the news over the years. And the message really struck home with me as being told on the stage. When a person is stood in front of you, a human being, some cases directly affected by those refugee camps in Calais, and talks about desperation and need, and the fact that we've turned our back on large swathes of humanity on this planet that we all share. It was some of the most powerful theatrical moments were in that show that I've ever experienced.
It's true, you kind of have those adverts on the telly where it's charities and they're showing you things, or
you become numb, don't you?
Yeah, you become numb, and you can switch off or you can change channel. I think that was something that stood out for this piece. Is I think someone said we couldn't change the channel. The actors were there telling the stories of these refugees,
real people
who are running for their lives from the war-torn countries, and we can just turn the channel on the news, but they are fighting to find their place in the world. And boy, was it moving. Absolutely. It's such a moving story.
Joe Robertson and Joe Murphy that wrote this have observed some of the biggest hardships that humanity can ever face firsthand, and the way they've transposed that into a script for stage is admirable. Again,
Yes.
nomination here, I should think.
Definitely nomination. And talking about
Olivier's.
transposing, talk about the stage, the whole of the Playhouse Theatre and the Young Vic. Transformation into this jungle full of cardboard. You couldn't tell where the auditorium was, where the circle was. Set design was fantastic.
Miriam Buther did the set, and this production is now in New York, so it's getting a stateside viewing with that original cast as well. And do you know what? I hope as many people as possible see this, and I hope they have their eyes opened to a humanitarian crisis that we just, especially at this time of year, we should all be paying attention to. If you weren't spending your evening with us, perhaps you'd be going around the rink, because we certainly were earlier in the year. Look, no one said my puns were good, okay?
This is going to be one of the best shows we've seen this year. Best musicals. I think what's great about it is we saw it at the Southwark Playhouse. I'm not sure if you've been to the Southwark Playhouse, but it's a lovely, intimate space, not much room at all. Performance space of a postage stamp. So it's so good to be up close to the talent, but the piece is so good. Kander and Ebb, right?
Yeah, Kander and Ebb, and that's the point. The piece is considered to be a flop, one of probably the biggest flop of Kander and Ebb's musical career, but I think it premiered at a time where the world wasn't ready for it. The world wasn't ready for a story.
Which is really surprising because it was Liza Minnelli and Chita Rivera.
But the story about two strong, independent, strong-willed and strong-minded women at a time in the early 80s where that wasn't seen and it wasn't acceptable. You know, it certainly passes the Bechdel test. And not many things do. And to have that happen 30 plus years ago, I am still in awe of what they tried to achieve then, but do you know what? Have achieved in this production.
And the thing is, what I love about it is every single number is so good. It pains me that it's not out there in the mainstream because it is so good. I keep saying the story is so good.
Did you like the story?
Yeah, you're dropped into these two characters that you know nothing about, and yet it's so clever how you are drawn into their story and you care.
Yeah, and you care from the get-go.
You do.
Made, sort of brought to life in the role of Honor by Caroline O'Connor.
Amazing.
Who is a worldwide sensational talent. She's currently in Australia doing some bits. She was in Anastasia on Broadway. So to have her in like a 300-seat theatrical space and be up close with her, I was in my element, and I'd be very surprised if ever I experienced something as overwhelmingly beautiful and nuanced and as fantastic as her performance was.
Can I just say something?
Is that? I thought you were pointing to our review. You're not popping it up here.
No, I was putting my hand up and waiting patiently.
Well done.
Am I right in saying that there was a tweet recently saying, "Shall we do the rink again?" from one of the main characters?
Yeah, they're teasing it. They're saying they'd love to get it back on somewhere, and I'd love more people to be able to see it.
I would go back and see it again.
Yeah, I'd happily see it again. Choreography by Fabian Alois, which tap dancing on roller skates on a postage stamp. I mean, boy, has he got some talent to be able to get people to pull that off, because I'm scared even. I mean, I do think I'm Olivia Newton-John in Xanadu when I'm on roller skates, but I certainly couldn't do what those guys do.
It was really good, and let's hope we see it again in London. Maybe in a bigger house this time so more people can see it, but definitely want it back. So that is our top 5 in no particular order. So moving on then.
Now, you know when something is so good that you just feel you've got to mention it, but you've only got 5. But, do you know, forget all of that. I'm having a wild card because I'm a wild sort of guy. And my wild card...
Wild cards, okay.
...is particularly wild because it's the wild duck at the Almeida.
I see what you did there.
Do you see what I did?
Is that why you've picked it, or is it generally the wild duck is the piece?
Leg has gone wild. Hashtag leg has gone wild, I think. We should be putting that out there. Now, the wild duck for me was a huge surprise. I said I want to get it off my chest, and I really, really do. Going into the interval, it could have gone either way for me. I wasn't sold. By the end of the show, it was one of the most overwhelmingly beautiful theatrical experiences I've ever had. Now, Robert Icke has displayed brand new depths to his directorial ability for me, following a few lather, rinse, repeat productions where I was used to seeing the same format and same formula. Not in this show.
Controversial.
He's rewritten Henrik Ibsen's original text and made it so modern, contemporary, yet kept that heartbreaking message, which is at the heart of all Ibsen, set by Bunny Christie.
What a set it was as well. I mean, it's a set that almost at the end it reveals itself.
It's
You've got to
the
go
biggest,
through it.
I think it's one of the biggest payoffs, though. You know,
It
like
is,
in
it
terms
was.
of payoff at the end of a second act, and you're waiting for the payoff. You get it in that production. I hope somehow more of you see it in the future.
Well, if you're having a wild card, I too
Oh,
should have
here you
a
go,
wild
getting on,
card.
jumping on the back.
Well, you with the wild, I want to go. Oh, what colour's this?
Oh,
Red.
was that thought about? Was it pre-planned?
Just
You
thought
couldn't
again.
have made this up.
I loved Red, which was directed by Michael Grandage, which we caught at the Wyndham's Theatre.
The one written by John Logan.
The one written by John Logan only had a cast of 2. You're going to tell me who the cast were? 'cause I
Alfred
won't be able to remember.
Molina as
Yes.
Mark Rothko,
Yeah.
and Alfred Enoch as his assistant Ken.
This was so good, based on the artist Mark Rothko. I'd heard of the name.
And his sort of latter life, wasn't it?
His
As he
latter
was
life,
sort of, his
yeah.
career was ending, his health was failing.
It was only, I think, 90 minutes straight through one act, so it moved very sharp. It was a revival. It was the same production. It had is it Alfred Enoch before?
Alfred Molina before.
Alfred Molina before, but with Eddie Redmayne. So this was before Eddie Redmayne got big, but they worked together. So this has already had quite a big name. It went to Broadway as well. The story is so good. It really spoke to me on many levels about working with inspiring people and what you can learn from them and getting out there and living and containing talent and what is talent and what it takes to make a masterpiece. And I'd seen his art before, but on a small scale. The great thing about this production is you see it on the grand scale, the scale that
The
Mark...
Grandage scale.
On the Grandage scale that Mark Rothko created it, and boy is the art pretty phenomenal, and boy did I like this piece.
It had a theatrical release, so perhaps you caught it in your local cinema.
Did it really?
It did. Let us know down below if you saw it either in London this time round, last time round, or in your local cinema. Now, in a world of yin and yang, where, you know, the universe balances itself out, for every top 5, there must be a more disappointing 5. I hate to say worst.
Because these are our worst. These are
Yeah.
our most disappointing. We went in with high hopes. And we're not saying, well, we say the worst because it's not the worst. But they weren't the worst productions. There are elements about them that were good.
Yes.
But in terms of what we expected, we were left a bit, ugh.
Yeah, deflated.
And that's just our opinion. I'm sure that some of these may be, and I'm pretty sure from the comments that we've had from our reviews,
They're your favourites.
some of your favourites. So, controversial.
Absolutely controversial, but one of the largest disappointments for me when you've got such high hopes for production was Caroline or Change at Chichester, then the Hampstead, then the Playhouse, and currently at the Playhouse. Now, it's undeniable that Sharon D. Clarke's talent is
Amazing!
sky high. Like, she is at the top
She's
of her
amazing.
game. And do you know what? She's ripening with age for me. I mean, she's been in the West End for a long, long time.
Just like a fruit.
But she gets, but she gets better with time. I was thinking maybe more like a fine wine. But if you want to go fruit, I suppose
Doesn't that
grapes
get
are a fruit,
That
right?
doesn't ripen though, does it? That matures.
Not like a cheddar.
like
But-
a cheddar cheese.
But there was nothing cheesy about this production. It was just a little bit lackluster. I mean, we champion diversity and diverse stories being told in our theatres, but this one just didn't do that well, in my opinion. I wasn't drawn into the characters. They weren't well rounded. We've seen this sort of struggle before, which is undeniable and needs to be told, but it's been told much better.
Yeah, the production was good. I just don't think the piece is great. Like, the vocal arrangement and harmonies were fantastic. The vocal talent was great. Some of the acting was brilliant. But in terms of a piece for me to care about, I just didn't care.
And it doesn't
It's
matter
just
that...
really sad because I do care about that point in history
Yes.
and what the story is trying to say.
Absolutely.
But there's been, like you say, there's been so many pieces that have told it better.
Yeah, and the score was ultimately forgettable, and it's fine that there's not a tune you can hum, there's not a tune that goes dum 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 da dum, but throw us a freaking bone with something that has some intelligible melody, or do you know what, something that we can go away thinking about, because the only thing I was thinking was, when's this going to finish?
So Carolina Change was a big disappointment for us. Up next,
Up next is one of the worst plays I've ever seen,
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even know where this is going. One of the worst places you've ever seen?
One of the worst plays I've ever seen, which I just can't fathom to this moment.
Can I have a clue?
You can have a clue. It's at our most favourite London theatre, which
The Almeida.
but one of our most unreliable as well.
The Almeida.
The Almeida,
Okay.
and it was predominantly female cast, older women, which a lot of the Almeida was this year, which is good.
I do know.
Dance Nation, yeah.
Dance Nation.
It was unintelligible nonsense for me, and
It completely missed the point with us.
yeah, it went over our heads.
Boy, we've had a lot of comments on this video
We have.
saying the contrary. We obviously missed the mark completely,
Which-
but that was our experience.
That was our
We
experience.
were like, what? And also the people in the audience. Look around the audience. There were a lot of
lulling heads. You know, when you leave a theatre after a really great show and there's a bubble and there's excitement and there's talking and there's discussing. I felt like I was walking out of a funeral, you know, when it's almost like no one really knows what to say or to make eye contact. It's sort of a bit morose.
But Dance Nation had come over from America. It had done really well
It
over there.
had awards on stage side.
Had it? And so again, we're expecting big things.
Yeah.
Almeida as well.
Just
Woohoo!
did not deliver. What a
Passionate
sad
performances.
disappointment.
Passionate performances, but just really for us confused. It didn't. I wasn't quite sure what it was or what it was telling.
Some shows you're sitting there and you're thinking, I wish I was out of the country right now. And in this show, they were for the majority of it. Summer Holiday, the UK tour. Despite a fantastic central performance from Ray Quinn, and
What a surprise.
like fantastic performance.
Yeah, a real surprise. Like, he was brilliant. He sounds great. He's got a lovely tone.
Yep.
A beautiful, crisp ownership of the choreography. However, even he couldn't save I guess it's the narrative. It's just the story. The numbers in this show were good.
I think they were okay. I mean, there was just again with the.
Have we actually said what it is?
Yeah.
I was suddenly thinking, do we know what this piece is?
No, we have.
Summer Holiday. Right. So the numbers in Summer Holiday are good. I was like, okay, as an individual number, that's good. But as a story, I was like, what? I don't care about this.
No, I mean, the less said about it, the better, really. I mean, let's not delve too deep into productions. As a production, it was fairly cheap. It didn't look lavish.
It had a bus.
And it had a milky white cast, which I understand it's trying to be the film, and the film was made at a time where there weren't a lot of black actors on our screens and they weren't involved in a story like that. But, you know, it's 2018, guys, and we can accept that the world has changed, but apparently this production can't.
Well, some of you agree with us and some of you don't on this point, and this is a very unique point to us. We are always championing diversity, and we think in this day and age, the theatre as it is, we can switch up casts. We've seen some great productions that have had that artistic vision. Amadeus, Sylvia, Hamilton, they get it, and it still tells the same story.
Yes.
And it was just, I think once we're aware of that, it was just really, it just added insult to injury in that the piece was dated and its creativity was also dated. That's just what we thought.
Just what we thought. Let us know down below, because we know this is something that you guys are passionate about, and we love to hear your thoughts.
Bring it on.
Yeah, do you think that we should be more open to it, even if a piece is based on something that was historically white? Can we shift things up a bit now we're in 2019? Let us know.
What's up next?
Next is, again, something I had high hopes for. A play this time.
Okay.
A Shakespeare.
I know what this is. We caught this at Shakespeare's Globe.
We did.
You had a fantastic British actor, which is, I forgot his name.
Brilliant. Mark Rylance.
That's the one.
You can't forget his performance, though, because he only ever gives one. And it's the same in every single thing we've ever seen him in, which is starting to really pee me off now.
And that production was Othello.
Othello. A great cast again. And do you know what? A diverse cast, even though this was set in the night. Do you know what?
Yes.
We've got over the fact that when Shakespeare was around, you couldn't have women on stage, but we accept that now as the norm and the way it should be. But it was...
That's a good point.
Yeah, but apparently we still think Summer
Hammer
Holiday
that
should be...
point
I'm
home,
really
Lego
getting
Simon.
that point. Like, home, aren't I? But... it's just had so much potential with that great cast with a great director.
It did.
But
it's one of my favourite Shakespeare's. It had
that
Sheila Atom in it
text is
as
a
well.
joy. Like, in terms of story, is there a more compelling story than Othello?
No, but the thing is, everything was stripped back for this. It was Emma Rice is no longer artistic director.
No.
So there was no amplification.
No.
There was no set.
No lighting.
Lighting, what single state.
It's set for me.
Lacked creativity.
It set the globe back 10 years because we were. It's a museum now. That's all it is. It's a museum showing Shakespeare in the way that Shakespeare would have been seen when Shakespeare wrote these plays, which is fine if you're into those sorts of things. But we've got a world of technology at our fingertips now. We've got such dynamic mediums, and when we are on a day-to-day basis, we've got projection, we've got things on our phone, we've got digital advertising. It's all bells and whistles. I think it's a lot to say, forget all of that and come and see something in a museum. For me, I was just bored. I was really bored. I wanted to leave, actually.
Yeah, I loved the piece, and I was, because I knew it was the first time Legacy was seeing it, and even I was thinking, oh gosh, this really isn't showing.
Because you have bigged it up over the years.
Light. I've seen some great productions. Adrian Lester at the National and the Olivier Space
with Kinnear.
Kinnear, who did he win the Olivier for that? I think
certainly a nomination,
definitely
if not a win. Let us know down below.
Comment below. But big stuff.
Yeah,
anyway,
what a shame.
That was that one. Up next is
a show that the more I think about it, the more annoyed and angry I get.
Give me a clue. Give us Leggers a clue.
It's a musical.
Okay.
It's got some
great
musics.
Great musics.
Great music.
Yeah, okay, more.
Had some interesting elements to it, and in a very big theatre, in a massive theatrical space.
No, need more.
Bat
out of hell.
Bat out of hell.
Oh my goodness.
And it didn't bat it out of the park, did it really?
At the Dominion Theatre. Now this is going to be really controversial because again we know that some of you leggers loved this piece.
We know some of you have seen it, you're in triple figures with the amount of times you've seen it. Which again, if it's for you and it makes you forget about the world for a while and gives you everything that you need, then who are we to argue? But for us...
So I guess what it was the set is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think the individual songs are phenomenal, really, in terms of their epicness. I mean, the Meatloaf, as Meatloaf originally performed, Jim Steinman's songs?
Jim Steinman's songs, Meatloaf.
And so we know that they are epic. They have their first middle bit, then they go on, and then they go on some more, and then they build, and they build, and they build. And they had some fantastic performers.
And the album, Bat Out of Hell, was written as a musical about Peter Pan, which is sort of what this is about. It's sort of a futuristic Peter Pan tale, but unfortunately it's nonsensical. I mean, Peter Pan, the story of Peter Pan is a little bit
nonsensical. I think that's the thing, it just didn't make sense. I didn't care one iota.
No.
And I was a bit like, come on guy, I want to care here. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds loud. Some of it was just a bit of a mesh of just sound, just too much, and I wanted more clarity.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. The story is poor.
And that's the thing. I think someone has acknowledged the story is awful, so they've tried to put a lot of production on it and make it a spectacle, which undeniably it is. But those bits that matter, like the plot and the book and the lines that have been spoken and character development, have also gone by the wayside. And the choreography is a disaster, I think. I would go so far as to say it's an absolute mess of a dance show, and I would be happy never to ever see it again.
I don't know if it was a disaster. At points it felt like just dancing for dancing's sake. It didn't feel as integrated as it could have been. But I think the big thing was the set was great. So, yin yang. Are there any more?
No, that's 5. That was the list that we wrote before we started this.
I can't remember. I couldn't even remember the list. Each one, it was like a new, oh yeah, that's it. That was the one. It was good fun though, guessing them.
We went back and reviewed
video.
every single video that we've done and picked that list out.
I think that should be a video in itself. Guess the musical, and we kind of like narrow it down. That was fun. That was a fun game for me.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Guess the list that I'd already made. That I had forgotten.
If anyone can remind you.
But that's our 5 most disappointing.
And our 5 highlights of 2018.
Plus 2 wildcards.
Plus 2 wildcards. There's loads to look forward to in the year coming up as well. we are going to be doing a couple of new things, actually. We're finally going to give you the Q&A you've been asking for. Don't worry.
Sorry, leggers.
Yeah, we've collated all the questions you've given us, and we are going to make a video about it.
We've just been so busy. Everything's just been knocked on. But we do listen, we do care. We have got your questions, and we will answer them.
And 2019 is also going to bring about the Breaker Leggers Awards.
Yay, we are having awards. There's so many shows we see that we're like, do you know what? We want to recognise them. We want to say, who cares about the Oliviers? I mean, we do care about the Oliviers. But also that we want to say, do you know what? We recognise you, and we want to pick out ourselves your good work. Whether it's acting, directing.
That's it, and we're going to sort of turn the awards on their heads a little bit. It's not going to be a traditional category thing, but stay tuned, hit subscribe. We'll be releasing a bit more information later in the year.
So that's the end. Subscribe, as Lego Simon has said.
Yeah, let us know your top 5 and bottom 5 if you've seen a lot of theatre this year as well. All of these lists are completely subjective. What's great? What's one of my favourite? Which musical is this from?
Guessing game again. I love these guessing games.
What's natural for the spider is chaos for the fly.
Spider-Man, Turn on the Dark.
No.
Okay.
Let's turn off the dark. Please don't turn it on. I'm glad we've got rid of it.
Okay.
Jesus.
Do I know this musical?
Probably not.
Okay. Comment below if you know this musical. Are we going to reveal the answer? Are you going to give me more clues?
No, just going to leave it sat there.
Okay, comment below so I know the answer, because I haven't got a clue at the moment. Anything else we need to say to our fellow Lego community?
We love you. Thanks for a fantastic 2018. Can't wait to be spending some more time with you soon. We're the Breaker Leggers.
And we'll catch you again soon.
Bye.